Namaste everyone, thank you very much for checking out this video. So if you're listening to me, if I'm audible to you, let me tell you, I conduct these classes on Google Meet and I've shared the link of the Google Meet in the description of this video. So if you want to interact with me directly, if you want to ask any questions related to Python, or you are doing a project of Python and you have queries, you have some issues in that and you want to get them solved by my help, then you can join the meeting and then we can have a discussion on the issues, right? So let me just quickly start the class, and before I started, let me tell you about my website. So whatever things I have shooted till date and whatever videos I'm shooting now, on Python, so you can find all the videos on my official website, which is www.gauravkumarjain.com, right? So it will, if you are searching for a video on my YouTube channel and you are finding it difficult to find the video on my channel, so you can come on the website and there you can find it very easily. So let me just start the meeting. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so yesterday we created a Python file with name session1, right? And I saved it in my downloads section, and some of you have saved it on your desktop, if I'm not wrong. So now what you have to do, you have to open this file, right, in VS Code. Now one way you can do it is by double clicking the file, and it will try to first identify the interpreter, or you can say the code editor, which is present on your device, and then it will open the file in that particular code editor, right? So by default, my on my device I have defined VS Code as a default editor. That is the reason it has opened for me the file in VS Code. And the other way you can do it is by right clicking the file, and then you can come on open with. Here you will find the options of different tools you can use for opening the Python file. So Python, which you are able to see over here, is an idle platform, right, on which you can open this file. Then we have PyCharm installed on my device, on which I can open this file, right? Similarly, I can open it in Notepad also, but for now we are going to make use of this VS Code. Okay, let me see if we have anyone anyone outside the waiting room. Okay, I think, yeah, perfect. So yesterday we discussed about the sprint function, right, and we also discussed about variables. So variables are types types of containers, in which you can store any value. Now if you have to perform some operations, so you can make use of these mathematical expressions for performing mathematical operations on these variables in which you have the values stored. Then we talked about the print function. So print is one of the function in Python with the help of which you can print the output and show it to the user. Okay, now after writing this code in VS Code, we saved the file as Python file on our devices, and then we opened the terminal and we ran this code. Now the first thing that you have to do when you are running your code in VS Code is you have to enter into the directory, you have to enter into that folder in which your Python file is present. So how you have to do it, how you can do it, you can right click this Python file's name, and from this cascading menu you can select copy path. Then here in this terminal you have to write cd and then paste the path which you have copied, remove the name of the Python file. So this is the directory downloads in which this Python file I've created is present. So after doing this much of thing, you need to execute the enter button, and you can see the you know we are now inside this downloads named folder in our terminal. Now for executing the code present in the Python file, we have to write Python, and then we can simply type the name of the Python file in which our code is present. So this is how you can execute the code present in your Python file. Right, that's what we discussed yesterday. Now let's talk about how can we learn Python from this website named W3 Schools. So here let me type Python W3 Schools, and when you will click here on Python tutorial, it will redirect you to a page like this, right? Now on the left hand side we can see all the topics that we can cover, that we can learn from this website. So the first thing is Python variables, which we have already covered yesterday. Right, now if you want to learn more about Python variables, definitely you can use this website, you can use these web pages for getting the information, and then you can practice these things yourself. How you have to go about it, let me just tell you that. So let's take this example for now. X is equals to 5, y is equals to John. So here in this first variable, we are saving an integer value. I think there is someone outside the meeting room. Let me admit her. Okay, we have so this is a first example in which we have taken two variables, one with name x and the other with name y. In the first variable we are saving an integer, right? And what is an integer? It's basically a number. It can be negative or it can be positive. And in the second variable we are saving a string. If you are writing anything inside double inverted commas, it will be read as a string by Python. Remember this. Okay, if you have written anything inside double inverted commas, it will be considered by Python as a string. Okay, so we are putting a string in the second variable, and we have defined an integer for this first variable, and then we are printing the values of both the variables. That's what we are doing in this example. So this is how you have to understand each and every example. You have to go through each and every line of the example, and then you have to understand the purpose and what exactly is the line doing in the code. Okay, now let's talk about this code. X is equal to str3. Now what is this str3? So as I've told you yesterday, that if you put brackets just after anything, okay, if you have written anything and then you are putting round brackets after that, so Python will read it as a function. So this str over here is a function. Okay, now why what does this function do? Let me tell you that. So let me remove this code for now from here. X is equal to 3. Okay, and so I have declared a variable with name x, to which I have assigned a value that is 3. It's an integer. Okay, it's an integer value. Now I have to prove it to you that it is an integer which is stored in this variable named x. How will I do it? So I can print the data type of this variable. What is meant by data type? Data type means the type of value present in a variable. Okay, what type of value is present in a variable? That's what data type refers to. Now if I have to check the type of the type of the value which is present in the variable x, so we can make use of, I can make use of the function named type. Okay, it's a default Python function which helps us in finding out the type of value of a variable. Now let's see what we will get as an output. So I have saved the changes and now I'm going to run the code. So see, it has given me this output, class int. Now int here means integer. Okay, it is referring to integer class. So because x is equal to 3 and 3 is an integer, that is the reason we are getting int as an output class. Now let me just change it to a string. So as I've told you, if we put anything inside double inverted commas, it is read as a string by Python. So let us see what it will give us as an output now. Sorry. So see, the class has changed. Earlier it was giving us int and now it is giving us str. So str means string. Okay, I hope this much is clear to all of you. Any issues, any queries till here? Okay, I hope this is clear. Now let's take two variables. So in the first one I have a string value. In the second one I have an integer value. Okay, now I want to add these two values. So let's see whether we'll be able to do it or not. So if I have to add these two things, I can take another variable, let's say with name c, and then we can use a mathematical operation for concatenating or for adding these two values, right? So c is equal to x plus y, and now the output will come in c, so I can print the value of c. Okay. So let's see what we will get as an output. So you know, the code is giving us an error. What type of error is it? It's a typo error. Okay, it's a type error. Now it says that can only concatenate string, not int, to string. So the error, you know, the message which is getting reflected over here in the terminal, it is telling us that in Python you can concatenate only a string with a string. You cannot concatenate an integer value and a string value. That's what we are trying to do here, right? We have an integer value in y. y के अंदर हमारे पास एक integer है, एक number है 23. x के अंदर हमारे पास एक string है जो कि 3 है. अब हम एक string को एक integer के साथ add करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. So that is something which Python cannot do. It can add only two strings, or either, you know, if there are two numbers, that's what it can add. But if you will try to add a string value with an integer value, it will not be able to do it. So what we can do here is we can change the type of this value or either this value. Now how to change the type? Suppose I have to change this integer value to string. So what I can do for that is I can use a function named str. str stands for string. So this function will change the type of the value to string. Okay, and it will then save the changed value, it will save the final value in this variable named y. So now earlier the value of y was an integer, and now it has changed to a string. We have changed it to a string value by using this str function. So let's see whether we'll be able to get the output from this code we have written over here or not this time. So for that we need to run it, and now we are getting an output 323. So 3 is coming from this first variable, which is x. See, we have written here c is equal to x plus y. तो x की जो वैल्यू है वो तो हमारे पास है 3, और y की जो वैल्यू है वो है हमारे पास 23. But Python will not read it as 23, right? Because for Python it's not a number, it's a string. So it will read it as 2 3. Okay, the value of x is 3, value of y is 2 3. So what Python has done, it has concatenated, it has added both these strings, right, and has saved the final output in the variable c, which we are able to see in the terminal over here. Similarly, if suppose you want to add these two things as numbers, so what you can do, instead of changing the value of this data, you can change the value of this data. So here you can write int, okay, because we want Python to read the string we have passed here in double inverted commas as an integer value. So now Python will read it as 3 as an integer, right? And this is already present in the integer format. Now it will come here on line number 3, and it will add the value of x and y. So 23 plus 23 will become 26, and we will get 26 as an output in the terminal. See, so this is called implicit conversion, right? This is called implicit conversion. We are converting the data type of a data, right? We are converting the data type of a variable. Similarly, if you want to convert it back to string, right, you have converted it into integer, now you want to convert it into string. So you can again write str like this, and you can enclose the entire thing into the str function. So how Python will read it now? It will first read this value, it will read it as a string. Now it will see कि यार यहाँ बाहर ना int लिखा हुआ है, तो मुझे इसको ना इंटीजर में कन्वर्ट करना पड़ेगा. तो ये 3 को क्या कर देगा, ये 3 को इंटीजर में कन्वर्ट करके उसे एज अ नंबर पढ़ने लग जाएगा. फिर ये देखेगा बाहर जाके कि ये तो str भी लिखा हुआ है, तो ये उस नंबर को दोबारा से कन्वर्ट करेगा स्ट्रिंग में. स्ट्रिंग क्या होता है बेसिकली, जैसे आपका नाम है, मेरा नाम है गौरव, GAURAV, तो ये डिफरेंट कैरेक्टर से बना हुआ है, तो ये एक स्ट्रिंग हो गया. ठीक है, बिल्कुल ऐसे ही एक नाम कह लीजिए आप, स्ट्रिंग को एक तरीके का नाम कह लीजिए आप. तो ये 3 पाइथन के लिए नंबर नहीं माना जाएगा, पाइथन इसको एज अ नंबर नहीं पढ़ेगा, ये एज अ स्ट्रिंग पढ़ेगा इसको अभी. ठीक है, अगर आप चाहते हैं कि पाइथन इसको एक इंटीजर फॉर्म में पढ़े या एक नंबर की तरह पढ़े, देन यू कैन रिमूव दिस str and now it will read it as a number, or you can simply pass it like this to the variable so as to make it read as a number by Python. Okay, I hope this much is clear to all of you. So if you want to try it out, you can go ahead and give it a try and let me know in case you come across any issues. I'm unsharing my screen for some time. Just check if you are able to do it. And in case you have missed anything, you can check the recorded video of this session on my YouTube channel, or you can also check my website named gauravkumarjain.com for for these videos, right? Okay, so let me share my screen again. I hope you have understood whatever we have covered. So this way you can read the examples and you can get the knowledge from these examples. Now the next topic is Python data types. Okay, so as I've told you, there are different types of data types that you can define in Python. So the first one is string, then we have int, then we have float. So if you have a decimal number, right, so it will be read as a floating number by Python. Let me show it to you. So uh, if we assign 3.34, a decimal value, a decimal number to this variable x, and we have to prove it to the user that it's a floating number we have assigned to the first variable, that is x. So this is how we can do it. So the function type will give us the type of the data present in the variable x. Okay, let me execute the code. So see, this is what it has returned. So it is telling us that the type of the data we have in the variable x is float, it belongs to float class, right? So this is how you can check the type of the value. Then we have something called a list. So if you have let's say 3 or 4 elements, right, and you want to put them together and assign it to a variable. So how you can do it? You can do it either by putting all the items into a list, or you can use a tuple for that, or else you can also use a set, and the fourth way you can do it is by a dictionary, right? So I'm going to tell you about the list type of data type first. Let's say you have 5 numbers with you, okay, and you want to put them together and assign it to a variable. How you can do it? So if you if you want to use a list, or if you are using a list, I think there is someone outside the waiting room. Let me admit him. So if you have 5 numbers with
Good
you,
afternoon, sir.
good afternoon dear. So if you have 5 numbers with you and you want to assign them, you want to assign all the 5 numbers to a variable. How you can do it? You can do it like this. So we have 5 different numbers over here, which we have put inside these rectangular brackets. Okay, and then we have assigned this whole thing to a container named x. Let me enlarge the size of my, yeah, I think now it is perfectly fine. You all are able to see it. So we have 5 different numbers which we have put inside these rectangular brackets. Okay, so rectangular brackets means list. Now if I change these brackets to round brackets, So this becomes a tuple, right? It will be read as a tuple by Python. Similarly, if I change the brackets to curly brackets, so it becomes a set, right? It will be read as a set by Python. So there are some major differences between these three things: sets, list, and tuple. Tuple are used for some specific things. Then sets are also used for some specific things. Similarly, lists are also used for some specific things. Right. So we'll discuss about it later on. But for now, uh, this is how you can differentiate between these three. So if you have to define a list, you need to put all the items separated by uh, a comma inside rectangular brackets. If you want to define a list of items, sorry, a set of items, then you can put the items inside curly brackets. And if you want to define a tuple of items, then you can put them inside round brackets like this. Okay, now if I have to prove it to you, let me see if there is anyone waiting outside the waiting room. Okay, so now if we have to if I have to prove it to you that whatever I've said is correct, or the things which I've defined here, so this is a tuple, it's a set, and this is a list. So how can I do it? I can use the type function again, right? So let's print the type of x, and then in the second line we can print the type of y. Similarly, in the third line, let's print the type of z. Okay, control. So see, the first, this one is, this one belongs to the list class. Then comes y, so it's a set. Okay, then comes z, it's a tuple, right? So this is how you can differentiate between these three. Anything present inside the rectangular brackets is read as a list by Python. Curly brackets is for set, and round brackets are for tuple, right? Okay, so let's move to if control statement. Now if you have to define a condition, okay, suppose there are two numbers, the first one is 33 and the other one is 200, and you want to check which number is greater out of the two. So you can use if control statement for that. Now how to define if control statements in Python? So let me help you with that. Let us assign two values like this to two different variables. Now after assigning the values, you have to declare, you have to define the if control statement. So you can write if like this, and then you have to write the condition on the basis of which you want Python to give its output to you. तो वो condition क्या है? सबसे पहले जो आप चाहते हो ना उसको हिंदी में कन्वर्ट कर लो. हिंदी में क्या बोलूँगा मैं? क्या, सॉरी, इफ ट्रांसलेट्स इन हिंदी टू अगर. अगर बी ए से बड़ा है, अगर बी ए से बड़ा है. So this is how we can write this Hindi sentence in Python code, right? Then after writing this code, you need to use this colon. Okay, after defining the condition, You need to write this colon, then you need to execute the enter button. The moment you will execute the enter button after writing this colon, it will bring you to the next line, right? But it will not take you to the beginning. It will, there will be a space which it will leave automatically, and the cursor will come over here. Just check it out whether you are able to get the same thing or not in your VS Code. So after writing this if control statement and putting this colon, you have to execute the enter button, and the cursor will automatically come here. It will not go here below I. It will come here somewhere, below B or this greater than sign. Yes, we have.
Sir, in my VS Code, it is not. It is giving dashes below the B and A's.
Okay, can you just share your screen and show me what it is giving you in your
Yes,
VS
sir.
Code?
Yes. Sir, it's not letting me share.
It's not letting you share right now. Beta,
I
can
think
you?
my computer is lagged 1 second.
Sure, no problem. Take your time.
It's giving dashes over here. Over here.
Just a second, Viha. Viha, you haven't saved this file, I think. Press Control and S keys together. Is it the same file in which you were working yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, so why is it giving you these dashes below these variables? Um, okay, we have do one thing. Just remove this line number 4. Remove the code you have written on line number 4 and write a print command. Print and print the value of A. Now, how you will print the value of A? See, you have declared two variables, right?
Yeah.
So, for printing the value, you'll have to remove the sign that you have defined in between this T and brackets. There should be nothing in between print and yeah. Now it is fine. Press Control and S keys together. And what is there in between A and 33 on the very first line? Is it equal to or minus?
Oh, sorry. It's minus.
Ah, it should be equal to, no beta. That's the reason it is giving you the. Yeah, now it is fine. Right. So now you can remove this print command. You can try that F control statement. I think you'll get the output.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, dear. You can unshare your screen, beta. Let me share my screen and tell you what exactly I want you guys to do. Okay, so after defining the condition, we can tell the interpreter what it has to return if the condition is true, right? तो अगर b a से बड़ा है तो आप क्या चाहते हो? मैं चाहता हूँ this the statement is true. Fine, so this is what I want the interpreter to print for me as an output. Okay, if the condition is true. Now let us see what we will get as an output. So for that we'll have to run the code present in the file and see. We are getting this output, this statement passed is true. Okay, now let's change the sign to smaller than. So as you guys know, this condition is now no more true for the values we have defined for these variables. Okay, now let's see what the interpreter will return as an output in the terminal if we will run the code. So as you can see, it hasn't returned anything. Okay, now why it hasn't returned anything? See how the interpreter reads the code. It reads it line by line. Interpreter will always read the code line by line. So it will first go, it will first read this very first line, and it will assign the value to the container named A. Similarly, after that it will come on the second line, it will do the same thing. It will read the value, it will take it and put it inside this container named B. Now it will come on this fourth line, or you can say the third line of code, and it will check for the condition whether it is true or not. So agar this is true, if this condition is true, then it will print this. Okay, this is what we have defined right now, because the interpreter, for the interpreter this condition is false, right? It is the condition we have defined over here is false. Just because of that, interpreter will not go inside the for loop, and it will not read this line of code. It will directly come out of this if control statement and put the cursor over here on 7th or 6th line, which means that it will not print anything, it will not give us anything as an output in the terminal. Okay, because we do not have anything on 6th or 7th line. So what we can do for fixing this issue is we can define the else part, or we can say elif, right? If in Hindi translates to agar, elif in Hindi translates to नहीं तो अगर. ठीक है, तो किस तरीके से पढ़ेगा इंटरप्रेटर मैं आप लोगों को बताता हूँ. अगर b a से छोटा है तो आप ये प्रिंट कर दो, नहीं तो अगर b a से बड़ा है तो आप ये प्रिंट कर दो. दिस इज हाउ द इंटरप्रेटर विल रीड दीज 4 लाइन्स ऑफ कोड. ठीक है, अगर b a से छोटा है तो आप ये प्रिंट कर दो, नहीं तो अगर b a से बड़ा है तो आप ये प्रिंट कर दो. नाउ लेट अस सी what we will get as an output. So we are getting the second statement which says the first statement is false. Okay, now why Python has returned this output? Because a is equal to 33 and b is equal to 200. So when Python will come on this fourth line of code, it will check for the truth value, or you can say it will check for the true, it will check this condition. Now because this condition is false for these two values of the variables, that is the reason it will not go inside the if control statement. Instead it will come on the 6th line and check this condition. Now because this condition is true for these two values, so the interpreter will come inside the if control statement and print for us this statement which we have mentioned inside the brackets. Okay, this is how the interpreter reads and executes the code. Now let's change the values of a and b. So let's change it to 6 and let's make the value of b also as 6. So as you can clearly see, these two, none of the conditions we have defined here is true for the values that we have defined for these variables. Now what the Python interpreter will do, let's see whether it will return anything or not. So for that we'll have to execute the code, and as you can see, it hasn't returned anything for us, right? Now because none of the conditions is true, that is the reason it has happened. Now if we want Python to return to us something or the other, even if the conditions we have defined are not true, then for that what we can do, we can use the else statement. Okay, and we can write here something like this: print none of the conditions is true. Fine. So what is this else part? What this else part will do, अगर ऊपर की कोई भी कंडीशन, मान लीजिए आपके पास 100 कंडीशंस भी हैं, 100 कंडीशंस हैं, जब आप बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट कर रहे होते हैं तो आपके पास 200 कंडीशंस भी हो सकती हैं, ठीक है, उनमें से एक भी कंडीशन सही नहीं है, तो यूज़र को कैसे पता चलेगा कि जो कंडीशन उसने डिफाइन करवा रखी है कोडर से वो सारी की सारी गलत है, इस वजह से उसे कोई आउटपुट नहीं मिल रहा? तो वो क्या कहेगा कोडर से कि आप एक काम करो, आप एक डिफ़ॉल्ट मैसेज वहाँ पे अपने कोड के अंदर डिफ़ाइन कर दो, ताकि मुझे ये पता चल जाए एंड में कि जो भी कंडीशन आपने डिफ़ाइन कर रखी है उनमें से कोई भी ठीक नहीं है, इस वजह से मुझे प्रॉपर आउटपुट नहीं मिल रहा। तो उस केस में ना एल्स पार्ट आ जाता है, ठीक है। तो अगर आपकी कोई भी कंडीशन इफ़ कंट्रोल स्टेटमेंट में जो आपने डिफ़ाइन कर रखी है वो ट्रू नहीं है, तो इंटरप्रेटर एल्स पार्ट पे जाकर वो कंडीशन या वो चीज़ एग्जीक्यूट कर देता है जो आपने उसके अंदर डाल रखी होती है। यानी कि अगर आपका ये पार्ट सारा का सारा फॉल्स है तो इंटरप्रेटर खुद जाकर एल्स पार्ट के अंदर जो भी चीज़ें मेंशन्ड करी होंगी कोडर ने उसको एग्जीक्यूट करेगा ही करेगा। यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा था, इसका जो एग्जीक्यूशन था वो इस कंडीशन पर बेस्ड था, इसका जो एग्जीक्यूशन था वो इस कंडीशन पर बेस्ड था, लेकिन जो इसका एग्जीक्यूशन है ना वो किसी कंडीशन पे बेस्ड नहीं है, वो तो होगा ही होगा अगर ऊपर की सारी कंडीशंस फॉल्स है, ठीक है। लेट मी जस्ट प्रूव इट टू यू। Now if I run the code, see I am getting this output, none of the conditions is true, which is this. Okay, so this is how the interpreter understands and executes the code present in a Python file. Okay, so this is it for today. Before I end this class, let me tell you what else you can explore from this website. So the way we have talked about this if else part, if else control statement, similarly you can there are while loops, there are for loops, there is for loops, right, which you can study yourself and then you can use them in different ways. So if you will click here on Python while loops, it will take you to a web page where you can where you can see different examples that you can try yourself, and in case you come across any issues, what you can do, you can jot them down on a notepad file, or you can keep a pen or a pencil and a notepad handy with you, in which you can write all your issues and then we can have a discussion on the same in the classes. Okay, so this is how you can practice the code, but till the time you will practice these codes yourself, you won't be able to understand them. Okay, so practice will make you perfect definitely. Once you'll start practicing them hard, you will you'll be able to understand the core technology, you will be able to understand the advanced Python also in a very easy way. अगर मैं आपको एडवांस पाइथन अभी से बताऊंगा ना, होगा क्या कि आपका ना कन्फ्यूजन बढ़ता जाएगा। तो अगर आपको बेसिक्स क्लियर रहेंगे तो आप डेफिनेटली एडवांस्ड बहुत अच्छी तरीके से सीख लोगे। जो जितने भी यहाँ पे एग्जाम्पल्स दे रखे हैं ना इस वाली वेबसाइट पे, कोशिश करना आप सारे एग्जाम्पल्स कवर कर लो। अगर आपने सारे एग्जाम्पल्स कवर कर लिए, आप प्रोजेक्ट बहुत अच्छी तरीके से कर पाओगे। ठीक है। और कोई भी इश्यूज हैं, आप उसको या तो, मैं क्या करता हूँ, मैं नोट पैड ओपन करता हूँ और जो भी प्रोजेक्ट में मेरे इश्यूज आते हैं ना वो यहाँ पे लिखता रहता हूँ। ठीक है। अगर आपके पास पेन और पेंसिल, आप इसके साथ कंफर्टेबल नहीं है, आप एक नोट पैड ले लो, एक कॉपी ले लो, पेन पेंसिल ले लो, उसके ऊपर आप इश्यूज लिखते रहो पेजेस के ऊपर। उस पेज की फ़ोटो क्लिक करके मुझे भेज दो, फिर मैं उन इश्यूज़ को डिस्कस कर सकता हूँ क्लास में। या फिर आप मुझे एक के बाद एक इश्यूज़ क्लासेस के अंदर ही बताते जाओ, मैं उसको रिजॉल्व करने में आपकी हेल्प कर दूँगा। ठीक है। दिस इज़ हाउ वी कैन लर्न पाइथन. Right, so this is it from my side in this class. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now just practice these things, whatever we have covered, and I'll see you in the next class. Fine. Bye bye. Take care, everyone.
Bye, sir.
Bye, Beta. Bye.